Hello, everybody. Welcome to part one of the Kubernetes version 1.35 release retro. My name is Kat Cosgrove, and I will be your host for the day. Um, just a reminder, this is a Kubernetes project meeting, and so we comply with the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which boils down to be excellent to each other. This is also recorded, so if you don't want your name and face and all that recorded, now is the time to turn off your video and do be mindful of what you say because it will be uploaded to YouTube for posterity. Um, so let's get her done. We'll start with going through the follow-ups from the previous retro. Create a board to track retro items. Do we have Viome or Josh here?
Yes, I'm here. I need to reach
Hey,
out to Viome about this. We
okay,
haven't started on it, but we definitely should. So
okay. We can call that still to do then.
cool.
Viome's not here, so we will skip that. Automation for adding docs PR targeting dev future release branch to the enhancements board. Drew, do you know anything about the status of that?
No, we still had that as a to-do item.
Okay. I'm going to say the same for all of Viome's. This one is actually done. Um, we did that. Let's see. Jenny, are you here?
Yep.
Any update on this one?
So I made some updates to enhancements handbook. I still need to add a couple things. So the criteria for enhancement freeze, I don't think I added that yet. And then below there's at the bottom code freeze checklist. I need to add that too. So
Okay,
yeah.
still in progress. Good work, though. Thank you. Fred, dig out
Yeah,
slash create the script for validating kep YAMLs.
yeah. I dug it out, so I was able to find it and
Okay,
even to understand it a bit. So what's the approach there? And I will. So it's in progress because I'm trying to improve it. But the approach that the code uses is to take the headers, the markdown headers, and essentially build a list of versions based on the content of the headers. And when it detects a difference between the last one and the others, it signals that there's a difference. It can be debated if
okay,
this is enough or not, but I'm going to share the link when it's a bit more polished.
perfect. Thank you. The next couple are mine. I do need to still add that to the lead handbook. Ensuring the branch manager shadow program continues. It has continued. We need to formalize some kind of application process, though, because it's a little bit difficult to keep track of just like a loose collection of Slack messages to me or to Marco saying that they're interested. But we're still trying to figure out how to handle that beyond obviously just a Google form, because there's a lot of extra validation that goes into letting somebody be a branch manager shadow. And that will probably result in the release team formally owning the branch manager shadow program rather than branch management or release engineering owning it. So there may be some organizational changes involved in doing that. Next two are you, Drew.
Yeah, so we had a discussion in the last retro about improving clarity on branch management and release signal.
Mhm.
So I started making some changes to the branch management template. I haven't pushed those changes up quite yet, so
Okay,
we'll continue
sweet.
with that.
Thank you. Jenny,
In
you already
yeah,
covered this one, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
in
okay,
progress. Yep.
cool. Oh, this one is duplicated. The create a board to track retro items. So we'll skip that and I'll fix it afterwards. Drew, I think a bunch of these are duplicated, actually. Or are super old. Yeah, a bunch of these are duplicated. So I'm just going to scroll until I find something that's not. Automation for release signal and release notes needed. That is I mean, some of that is the Krell stuff, but some of it is still out of our control until we have more engineering assets. It's not something we can do with our current assets. Deprecate, bug triage, Slack channel. I just need to open a PR for that. Angelos, you're not here, are you? No. Okay. That one is Jeremy. Jeremy, you're not here, are you? Okay. Is Nina here? Okay. Ryota on the comms handbook updates.
Yep. There was some updates to the handbook, and I think there's another item just a few lines above about the comms mid-cycle has to go after the code freeze. I think that's done.
Okay.
For the general updates to the handbook, it's still in progress. There are a few updates that I have made, and Graziano and Agus helped, but I think it's not merged yet. So it's still in progress. We'll try to get that merged as soon as we can.
Okay. Thank you. Ryan, are you here?
Yeah. So for this, I think I already raised a PR. If not, I think I remember adding all those changes. I'll just look into it once and then update.
Okay. I think I remember seeing that PR, or I saw a discussion about it on GitHub. So
Yeah.
let me know what you find and I'll update this accordingly.
Sure, sure.
Ryota again.
Yep. That one is with SIG Docs kind of collaboration. I brought it
Okay.
up once, but it didn't get anywhere. After that, I didn't actually like raise the PR and stuff. So I need to get back to that. So I'll keep it in progress and I'll make some progress there.
Okie doke. All right. All right, let's get into what went well. The first three items are you, Drew.
Yeah, so just wanted to shout out appreciation to everybody. Sub-team leads have been doing really well. I've heard great things about the shadows this cycle as well. So yeah, thanks to everybody. A big special thanks to the release lead shadows. Y'all have been very dependable, engaged, taking initiative, proactive, following everything very closely. So that helped a lot. Prepared, I think, uh, really engaging like that will prepare your leadership for future cycles, hopefully. So yeah, exciting. Um, any thoughts before I move on from these two?
No, I agree. Good job, everybody.
So also wanted to shout out the application that Release Signal has developed and donated. I think it's pretty cool when we can look at some toll that we have on our screen on our sub teams and think about how we can write some code and some automation to speed it up for future cycles. So I think that's really cool that y'all put work into doing that. So just wanted to call that out. Great job.
All right. The next two are from Scion. Are you here?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. I reported from the dog's shadows perspective, and it's been a long time since when I have rejoined the release team. But one thing I found that there was a responsibility sheet, but at the starting of every week, we posted what's the responsibilities on whom, and if things are not covered, then we covered those things. So I felt this was very important because this kept a track on who is doing what and how things are moving on.
Okay.
And I think if it was not there earlier, it would be good to continue in the future so that because so many things are happening, it's good to see that everybody takes part as a shadow in the process. And the other thing was the whole Slack group was very communicative. We talked through things. The tasks were well divided, and I loved how our DOS lead Urvashi took basically rotated us from one task to another throughout the release. So yeah.
That does sound great. If that's that, I don't believe that that practice is in the handbook. Do you think it would be a good thing to put in the handbook?
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to put in the handbook.
Do you want to take an action item to put it in the handbook?
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Ben, could you please assign him an action item? They're down at the bottom.
Sure can.
Thank you. And the next two are Depeche.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out the enhancement team. So this release was the first release where we formally did the PRR deadline as the hard deadline. I know there are few teething problems and people have reported in what could have gone better, but I think they did a brilliant job in this. Handling the PRR freeze and the enhancement freeze back to back in 2 weeks. So that was well done by the enhancement team. Then a shout out to the docs team. I've seen docs team doing multiple outreaches, going up and beyond the number of outreaches that is specified in the handbook to get the docs PR across the line and simultaneously working on the release notes PRs also that have gone smoothly this release. So good job by the docs team also.
I agree with both. I do want to highlight that dealing with a new deadline the first time is always a massive pain. There's always pushback, confusion. We figure out where we're not doing things as optimally as we could be. So it's always rough the first couple of times, and y'all have done a fantastic job handling it. You've handled it all very gracefully. So well done. Is there anything else we would like to cover that went well so far? Okay. What could have gone better? Drew, you're up.
Yeah, so with the PRR freeze, I think when we send out a final call email for enhancements so traditionally we've sent out an email 1 week before the enhancements freeze. Now that we have a new PRR freeze, we'll send out an email um, ahead. We'll still send out an email like roughly around that time, and I think it would be good to tighten our processes a little bit where like after we um, see that things are tracked for PRR freeze, we immediately look at what the status might be for the enhancements freeze. Because I remember when I sent out an email and looked through the board, it was like all tracked for PRR freeze, so it didn't really like give much information on like where we were with the criteria for enhancements freeze. So yeah, so I just wanted to call out. I think it might be more useful just to go to at risk for enhancements freeze. I don't even know if we need that status for tracked for PRR freeze per se.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see how that gets confusing. I mean, we could just add a new column that's just PRR freeze status. I don't necessarily love adding another column because it makes the board even more unwieldy than it already is.
Yeah.
But it is a solution, or yeah, we just jump straight to its status for enhancement freeze. But um, I don't know. Does anybody have an opinion on that?
I'm always kind of actually fond of adding the column because you can make tabs and filter them down, right? So could have another, I mean, I know there's probably tons of tabs too, but a tab that's focused down on this particular transition point and can just have two, three, four columns if that's all that's needed. And yeah, I know that means like the main view is going to be like tons of crap, but
Yeah, but it's filterable. Do you want to put this conversation down in the notes? So just hit enter for a new line and note who's saying what when we get into a discussion on one of these. It usually only happens in the what could have gone better and what we'll do for the future. Um,
Yeah, so I
but
think another thing we could do is if we continue to have PRR freeze parties, which I think we did this time,
mhm.
cutting over immediately, like getting when the enhancement shadows come together, just like cutting over immediately to the enhancement status at that point instead of marking everything as tracked for PRR freeze. That could also be helpful to do. So I think action item from that would be updating the enhancements handbook to clarify doing that.
Okay. Yeah, at minimum, the enhancements handbook needs to be updated. So do you want to do that for this retro? And then next cycle we can look and see if we still want an additional column.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So are you taking the action item for that handbook update?
Yes.
Okay. Ben, could you please assign Drew an action item to update the handbook regarding PRR freeze?
Yeah, Drew, you already have one update the enhancements. That's basically
Yeah,
what you're doing?
I'm adding it.
Okay, sweet. All right. And Drew, your next one.
Yeah, so I think I don't know how common it's going to be that KubeCon starts on a Monday and that we're doing Maintainer Summit on a Sunday.
Foreseeable future.
Yeah. So that kind of threw me for a loop. This is kind of more um I was a little flustered with like having code freeze be at the end of the week and then immediately like flying out to somewhere else and going to conferences like back to back. So I part of that's a me problem, but I also just wanted to call that out because I think it's good to keep in mind for future cycles when we're setting out the release schedule. Everything gets kind of tight, and if there's like a lot of code freeze exceptions that come in, a lot of that has to be tackled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is also going to address. I see Cyan had something similar to say. So I'm going to address both. Unfortunately, that is so unavoidable. We can't keep deadlines from being close to KubeCon. The best we can do is try to prevent them from being during KubeCon. And that's not always something we can control because we need a minimum amount of time between some deadlines. It's also only going to get worse as the CNCF schedules more and more KubeCons. This was a problem when it was just KubeCon North America and KubeCon Europe, but now we have India, China, Japan, and South Korea.
Right.
So, and I wouldn't be unsurprised to see like something added in Latin America. So, this is only going to get worse, and it is unfortunately just true that the work does not stop for us just because we're at KubeCon. We have to juggle it. I led a release during a KubeCon too. I get it. I was reverting PRs from a talk. It's not fun, but we also can't avoid it. All we can do is minimize the damage or the potential damage, and that's done during the like open period where we're scheduling the events of the release. So all of these contributors and SIG leads that may run afoul of a deadline or would be impacted by a deadline being close to KubeCon, they have time to comment on it and do move things around. We try as much as we can, but it is unfortunately, this comes up every single retro. It is simply not avoidable anymore.
Yeah.
We do what we can. I don't know that we could have moved code freeze much more. There's just so little wiggle room, especially with the winter release.
Yeah, part of me was curious if maybe like code freeze on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I don't know. That would only just be a few days difference, really.
I mean that few days matters. Like we could be having code freeze on a Wednesday instead of a Thursday. I think historically it's on Thursdays. But I don't see an issue if the timing works. If like the minimum number of days works, we can have it on Wednesdays. So maybe that's just something to keep in mind for the next cycle. Try running it on a Wednesday because the next cycle will run into KubeCon Europe. which is the bigger KubeCon
Yeah.
anyway. So like that's the one where like really you're going to have a hard time getting a hold of project leadership. Okay.
Are they going to keep it in like Sunday through Thursday-ish? I definitely heard people go, "Damn,
Yes.
we have to be on Sundays now? That sort of sucks," instead of maintainer Monday
So
and rest.
I can tell you why. Uh, it's because we, the maintainer summit, wanted to have our own day. We used to have our own day. And then co-located events took up more time, and it got to a point where people who wanted to attend the maintainer summit but needed to attend a co-located event for work could not do both. So we demanded a separate day, and all we could get was the day before. So yes, it is still going to be Sunday through Thursday for the foreseeable future. Sorry. I don't like it either, but it's better than conflicting with colos.
Hmm. And they won't want to push them all back
No.
because complicated.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Um, okay, will you assign an action item to me and to Fred to make sure that code freeze is on a Wednesday next cycle?
Sure can.
You appreciate you. All right, Drew.
Yeah, so I think this was another thing that I posted on here just earlier in the cycle to chat about. But I think we agree it would be useful to post the code freeze exceptions on GitHub um, in addition to our other comms. At the moment that we reapply labels, I'll take an action item to add that to the lead
Okay.
handbook and progress issue. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Go for
Is
it.
code freeze exception like, is that a label kind of thing or just a comment's good enough?
So I'm trying to remember the context. I think so when we approve or reject a code freeze, we have a process of sending it in Google Groups and then also in Slack. We think it might be useful to put it in GitHub as well. So
That used to be managed in GitHub as a YAML file that people actually didn't fill out until after the release was complete. So I agree that it would be cool to have it if it's actually going to happen during the release timeline.
okay.
All
Yeah, so
right.
yeah, I'll take that action item.
Sweet. Sion, do you want to talk about this, or do you feel like this was adequately covered already?
Yeah, this was pretty much covered. One thing I just wanted to add was, is it possible to let people know, like the cap owners beforehand, that these are the deadlines, so they can work accordingly. I saw a few cap owners before because they were leaving on Thanksgiving vacation, so they completed everything much before leaving for the vacation. So something on those lines. Um,
So they should already know.
okay,
They should already know, like, because the deadlines, when y'all post reminders on the enhancements, you should be
right.
including the date of
Yeah, we
the
do
upcoming
include, yeah.
deadline. But also the SIG leads all know when the deadlines for the release are, because we post it all in advance. Y'all are welcome to post those reminders earlier if you
Yeah.
like. You don't have to wait until
Mm,
it's like emergent. Um, and I would say earlier is better. But like the deadlines are all very public. They should know. No deadline in the release should ever be a surprise. Um,
sure.
so like considering like we also blast out an email to dev at, like there's not really I would say enhancement owners don't really have an excuse for not knowing when the deadlines are.
Okay,
I think
sure.
with the PRR review, the only one that gets a little close is enhancements freeze,
Yeah.
because they're only a week apart, and we don't tend to get to the notifications until Tuesday, Wednesday of the week. But there's still multiple days. As you said, they're all public in terms of what those deadlines are. Everyone should know that enhancement freeze comes the week after. And I think we even put the date in the PRR freeze notification as well.
Yeah. We can try wiggling around when PRR freezes too, but that, requires coordination with the PRR team and has kind of just historically been a problem. It just has been a problem that hasn't been enforced until now. It's sort of just been ignored.
Sure. I think that covers everything for this
Okay,
one. Thank you.
you're welcome. Depeche?
Yeah, so this one, so during the first few weeks of the release, we missed that the milestone applier was not working on the docs
Mm,
repo. So what it is we need a PR against test infra. So this is done by the outgoing doc lead from the previous release. So it was
okay.
the case that the PR was not merged and we did not notice very late. I think Ray,
Mm,
docs lead, reached out to us. So maybe can we have a checklist or the outgoing lead can just hand over the PRs that are not merged or just raised either to Cat, you or the release lead so that we can track what is going on with these PRs.
yeah, totally. Um, I think that should go to the incoming docs lead, because by
Mm-hmm.
then, we know who the incoming docs lead is.
Right.
That should go to the incoming docs lead and to the sub-projects leads, probably. Do you want to take an action item to add that to the handbook?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll note here that it might be good for the whoever's handling branch management and the update of the update of the test infra configs to kind of like either post code freeze or towards the end of the release cycle altogether, flip both KK as well as K website instead of just KK.
Say that one more time for me. I kind of half missed your sentence and I want to catch it for the.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a config update that needs to be done at the end of the release, right? To kind of like say, hey, we're doing a new release altogether now, right? So that config update usually applies only to Kubernetes. But you could just apply it to Kubernetes, and Kubernetes website and take both of them together.
Some of the K website config update might actually require elevated SIG docs permissions, I think.
Yeah,
The branch manager is not an owner of K website.
yeah, I wouldn't expect the person who's issuing the PR to actually be the owner
Okay.
as well. The branch managers usually don't have approval rights over there. It's usually someone else approving ultimately.
Okay. Alrighty. Next up, Raj.
Yeah. So this one is related to release signal. So in this cycle, there were a couple of instances where there were misses related to one flaking UT and another consistently failing E2E serial test, which I, being responsible to the release signal sub team, I had to reach out to the lead to report them. So in my opinion, these were due to the new tool which the release signal has been using, the Signal Hound. So after a bit of root cause analysis on why these were missed, so it turned out that the tool only picks up the flakes and failing jobs from the summary board, and the jobs which have high frequency of running, they turn out green in spite of having some active flakes. So there are some gaps in the existing tool is what I felt. And in my opinion, this tool should have been properly tested, and um I don't seem to see any approval or request placed by the current release team before going ahead with officially using this team.
Okay, so
Using
they
this tool.
definitely can be using it but they shouldn't be relying on it exclusively
Right.
until like all of these bugs are worked out. So, has an issue been filed for this problem with Signal Hound?
No, I'm not very sure. I did not officially
Okay.
go through the issue. Yeah.
Okay, we need issues filed for that problem with Signal Hound, and also release signal should not be exclusively relying on that until
Got
it's
it.
thoroughly vetted. Um,
Yeah.
so
So the new shadows, like who weren't like very sure about the manual process, like what we were going through, the reporting and the usual manual looking at the boards, they seem to have relied on this tool completely. So that would
okay,
have caused the misses, is what I felt. Yeah.
okay. As long as they're not still relying on that exclusively, we will make sure that it's not relied on exclusively next cycle either. They do need to be able to handle it without the tooling, especially while Signal Hound is still so new and we don't know where the gaps are. So, are you willing to take an action item to open an issue for the problem detected with Signal Hound?
Mm, Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you.
And also, should
Um,
we have an action item to test this tool thoroughly with more of use cases and scenarios?
yes, it does need to be thoroughly tested, and I will also take an action item to make sure that release signal is not relying exclusively on that next cycle.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Um, this one via Slack.
We could skip
Yeah,
this one.
I
Next
Yeah,
one.
we
I
can.
added that. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
think Ben raised this point, I think, on the Slack channel. That
yeah, we've
currently the
already.
enhancement view has two columns with redundant info, so not sure what to do with it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, maybe we reuse one of these columns because yeah, that is an artifact of before we owned the PRR freeze process, before PRR freeze existed, really. And that status was updated um, by enhancements and by not us, I think. So yeah, maybe we just reuse the PRR status column to indicate whether or not something is tracked for PRR freeze. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So then we'll clarify that the main column will be used for tracking enhancement series.
Yeah. Okay.
Should
I
we
think the
rename it to PRR freeze, the column name, just to make it kind of clear, like, oh, this changed. So
I think we can just change how we use it. We get rid of the tracked for PRR freeze status drop down item, and PRR status becomes tracked for PRR freeze or failed at PRR freeze. Um,
I think the PR team might use that column because I see it gets updated sometimes, so we might need to communicate
yeah.
to them to stop using it.
I will take an action item to go talk to Mache about this since he owns that. Okay. Here. Um, Ben, the next item is yours whenever you are ready. I know you're typing.
yeah, done typing. Okay, so found out that Test Grid also has a new UI that you just run locally, right? Which is, it's still in like the roughies early state, but it also sounds like the back end has been, is like the last remaining and the front end are both kind of last remaining entirely on Google infrastructure things that probably should be moved under, CNCF or whatnot. Given the back end, as far as I can tell, is open source and the new front end is also open source, it'd be kind of neat to actually just get it running and hosted somewhere and have kind of a legacy, new, both, and that might encourage a little more iteration on it and catching it up to speed. And even like some of the pain points we talk about are just time wastes. It's not too hard to find JavaScript or front end people who are capable of iterating on stuff once it's running. And so just throwing that out there. But you kind of need to get this done, and then you could also say, yay, there's no more stuff running on random little things somewhere in whatever company that nobody really knows how works anymore. Also sounded like when I was in KubeCon that this is not guaranteed to us. So at any moment, Google could just be like, "Hey, we're not going to host this anymore. Bye," and then test grid goes down. So um, depending on how important we feel like that is, sounds kind of important to me. It'd be kind of cool to get this bumped along.
Okay. What resources and assets do you think would be needed to get this going? And where do you propose we get them from?
Yeah, let's see. I talked to Arnaud on the SIG infra team, and he seemed kind of okay with helping. Maybe though, he was also like, "Hey Ben, do you know people who could do this?" So we'll see. And I was talking to Michelle, who I think has mostly owned the UI via Slack. She wasn't at KubeCon, but she seems potentially maybe. I got little maybe cycles from people, but nobody who's like, yes, let's get this done. So at the moment, it's kind of a maybe thing.
Okay.
How's that for an estimate?
Um, I think to assess whether or not this is something we can or will do, we need a thorough description of the assets that would be required to get this done. That's in both like people, engineering resources, and in infrastructure. Um, so I would suggest that you open a GitHub issue that contains all of that so that we can keep it like trackable in one place and point people at it when we're asking them for resources, whether that's their engineering talent or something like hosting. But at minimum, we need that stuff in order to consider whether or not this is something we can or will do. So do you want to assign yourself an action item to open that GitHub issue?
Yep, there's a few open actually, because there's two repos that hold both of these chunks of code. So there are GitHub issues. So I can assign to do for me to keep prodding at it and nudging it along across those issues and the humans out in the world that might be able to help with it.
Okay. Then I need some kind of like parent doc that links to both of those issues and includes like an actual proposal. Because it is like I'm not saying we can't do this or we won't do this. I'm saying that it is a significant ask, especially with respect to engineering resources. That is something we historically struggle to get
Mhm.
outside of like Go. Like I know JavaScript and CSS. I am capable of being a front end developer. I used to be one, but I don't have the time to do that personally. Steven, your hands up.
Yeah, so yeah, a few things, Kat, exactly to your point that it is not easy to get resources in the project. One of the things that I want to highlight is that we have a steering member who is also a SIG testing participant and maintainer. So I don't expect test grid to just magically disappear, thankfully. What I can say that is that test grid is entirely out of scope for SIG release. While it is a tool that we use, it is not a tool that we maintain or should be maintaining. If you are interested in pursuing this, um, I think that you will have support for people from people who are interested in this. But just to be very clear that this is not infrastructure that SIG Release intends to maintain at all.
Is there any SIG that actually owns it then, or a SIG testing would probably be the
Testing would be the you yeah
Testing owns it.
you talking to Michelle, like that's in the right direction. So I think chatting with Michelle, chatting with Ben or something once you have a proposal going would be great. Again, not to say that we won't support you in helping, review a proposal or something and make sure things look tidy, but it is entirely out of scope for SIG release.
that wasn't Drew, that was Steven.
Alrighty. Okay, what we will do differently in 136 and beyond, we've got 15 minutes left, so a bunch of this is going to get kicked to the part 2 retro, by the way. But I think we've done a good job getting through this far already. First item in what we will do differently in 136 is a question mark, Drew.
Yeah, so I know this cycle and then also some of the past cycles, there's been some discussion on whether or not we want to have a progress issue opened in GitHub for the sub team leads. The release lead currently has one, and then a progress issue has been cycling for the comms team for the last several cycles. So I just wanted to elevate this conversation for, yeah, consideration of future cycles.
I think this would be a good thing for any sub-team lead to have. The docs team also has like a really, really exhaustive week by week
Mhm.
guide of what is supposed to be happening. And I don't think any of the other sub-teams have that. This is something I would love to see, but it is also something that the sub-team leads, the outgoing sub-team leads would have to take on. So would any of the current sub-team leads like to put together progress issues similar to what the release lead and comms lead have? It should be relatively trivial for docs since that information does already exist in Markdown form. So that's like very close to just copy and pasting it into an issue template.
So to clarify too, this would be like taking the handbook and trying to make it more of like an issue template with like checkboxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can't take the whole handbook, especially not docs. There's so much in there, but we can take the like weekly, here's what's supposed to be happening, here's what you're supposed to have done section of it, and drop it into a markdown format with checkboxes for an issue template.
Yeah.
Ben, will you assign me an action item to do that for docs, please?
Sure can.
Thank you. As for enhancements and release signal, I think all we can do is like chase down the outgoing leads or the incoming leads and ask them if they're interested in doing it. Because I agree it's helpful.
I had something going for release signal in for 132, so I'll write an action item to look at what I did and see if we can continue
Okay.
with that.
I did a quite extensive one for the comms from kind of inheriting from the previous one, and then made quite a few changes in my cycle, right after my cycle. And I can probably help with the enhancements and release signal if need be. And it's actually time consuming to get all the details for both the sub-team leads and also sub-team shadows, because some items are different in terms of the action items and kind of granularity and clarity each team needs. So I can definitely support with the action items there as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of imagining if we have these issue templates, they would be the most helpful for the release lead shadows, as to kind of keep track of everything going on and knowing where they can come in and support.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I found it as well.
All right. Well, I'll take it for release docs, and you two will work on it together for enhancements and release signal.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Perfect. Next up is about the PRR freeze party. Jenny, would you like to talk about it?
PR freeze party. Okay. Yeah, this is we kind of touched upon some of this earlier, but like these two deadlines are really close together. So right now, like, well, for this release, like after PR freeze, we just had everything, either tracked or removed from tracked for PR freeze or removed from milestone. But the kind of enhancement freeze tracking, which had to be done by a week later, wasn't started till after this. So basically, there was like less than a week to post the updates for enhancements freeze. Where in the past, I think we gave maybe a couple weeks ideally so that they could make any updates needed. But I'm not sure if there's too much we can do since we have the two deadlines now.
Yeah.
Maybe just start everything earlier.
We can definitely just start reminders earlier. This might always just be like a touch hairy until at least until people get used to it, but we can for sure start reminders way earlier. Do you think that'll help?
Yeah, and I think ideally we can check for both enhancements freeze and PR freeze, like checklist items at the same time, so that if something's
Okay.
already done both, we can just mark it as tracked for enhancement freeze, and we don't have to check that one again after PR freeze.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Do you want to clarify that in the handbook?
Yeah, yeah, we should probably add an action item to do that.
Okie doke. One action item for Jenny.
So just to clarify, you're saying that in the process of checking PRR freeze, if it meets enhancements freeze, we just go straight to it, tracked for enhancements freeze.
Yeah, I think that would be better, so we don't have to check it like twice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think they are quite tight. Theoretically, the idea is meant to be that if you've got a PR like up and ready for review, you meet PRR freeze, then that week from then to enhancement freeze, getting that merge shouldn't be that difficult. Maybe we can bake more of the requirements of, at that point, I guess you're just kind of getting, it's just becoming an enhancements freeze. So yeah.
I mean, checking them both at once, I think is already a good thing. It's a deduplication of efforts for the enhancement subteam.
Yeah.
So
Just have to
be
maybe
checking
update the
both.
template when you're
Yeah. Yeah, it'll require a little bit of a template update, but that's okay. Okay. We've got 8 minutes left, so we've got time to get through maybe like one or two more before we gotta close it out. The next one will be scheduled for the week after Christmas, by the way. Totally get that that means fewer people will be able to attend, but we can't really put it off until the first week of January. Drew, the next one is yours.
Yeah, so this one we already discussed.
Okay.
It's like the next one. So in 135 in past cycles, I've noticed that the release lead and shadows keep a spreadsheet to track exception requests. I also noticed that we have columns and statuses for this on the enhancements board. So
We do.
yeah, so that kind of makes me wonder if we can simplify this by using the enhancements board for that kind of thing.
We might be able to. That's worth looking into. Automation is always better.
+1.
All right, I'll take an action item.
Don't we?
Cool. Go ahead, Josh.
Don't we remove from milestone though at the enhancements freeze? So that would they stop? They would stop showing on the board at that point, wouldn't they?
Well, no, they're still on the board. They just change their status to removed from milestone.
Yeah, you're probably looking at a default filtering that
Right.
filters out anything that's removed from milestone, but they are still on the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okie doke. Next one is Ryota, and that's probably the last one we go through before we call it for this retro.
Yep, should be a short one. It's about the meeting minutes and how we have the async meetings sometimes with the KubeCon and a few other things with such as some hosts not available for APAC, which happens time to time. And when we do that, we have just sometimes we do have a meeting note in the doc, the meeting agenda, but sometimes we just have a Slack message thread. So if you can just kind of make sure that the meeting minutes is also updated before or maybe along with the async updates on the Slack, I think that would be just helpful. What I did earlier for, I think for the previous week, last week, as we had Thanksgiving, I just had a link back to the Slack thread from the Google Doc. So this is maybe something that we can just add to the release lead handbook to say that async is also handled as a part of the Google Meet, Google Note, the doc for meeting notes.
Okay. I think that's an easy ask, and I agree that stuff should be in the meeting doc. So who
Yeah,
would like an action item to update the release lead?
I can take that. And I think the async meeting is just not mentioned anywhere, if I remember correctly. So I'll just make sure that that's touched as well.
Steven, your hand's up.
Yeah, so one note here is that while it's not currently a risk, we did have a interesting conversation around our Slack status earlier in the year and whether or not we were going to continue to be able to persist notes in Slack. So for anything that we want to persist, I would suggest putting in a meeting doc as
Yeah, it
opposed
should
to
be
just
like
Slack.
we
Yeah.
just same meeting note, meeting agenda template. It's just a note that it's an async versus a burn down or
Okay.
a
Okay,
weekly.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
persisting in Slack is sketch, obviously, at this point.
Yeah, I'll definitely touch on that to kind of prioritize on the Google Doc first, and then maybe kind of copy it over for easier access on Slack. But yeah, we'll document that.
Yeah. I think we have time to hit Depesh's first one about moving away from Bitly.
Yeah, so I think Vyom did some groundwork and he raised a PR in the conf, I think, which has been merged. I think we can start using those links. It will require some groundwork creating a links.md file in our release directory and putting the links there. Maybe we can start this release. I don't know.
We can't start this release. We can start with 136 though. So yeah, Ben, will you assign an action item to me and Fred to make sure that that happens next cycle?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So that's what we have for part one of the retro. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions and for your discussion and for taking on so many action items. Every release gets easier as we find things like this to fix. So I will send out calendar invites for part two of the retro for the week after Christmas. And we'll see you all there. So please do continue adding things. I'll note after this meeting where we stopped part one and that part two items go below this point. Is there anything else anybody would like to bring up before I close out this meeting? Okay, cool. I'm going to stop this recording. Where does it hide? Bye. See you all on YouTube.